Well, all right. Whoa, that was wild loud in my ear. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the podcast. Y'all, like, I don't even know y'all niggas because you've been gone for, for a clean year, literally a year and 3 months. But that's okay because we're here with new faces, as you can see. We didn't actually lose Josh, but he can tell you that story on the next podcast. Flop. He's a flop. But all right. Anyway.
Really?
Just to go ahead and introduce these lovely individuals to my left, because I'm sure y'all know him, but he'll introduce himself too. Would you like to start, good sir?
Yeah, I'm Zach.
Okay. You want Hey, yo, you want to tell him a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I know David from college, and so I've been like hounding him about getting this thing back going. It's too long.
That's facts.
Because he knows me. I just love to talk.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not, but the face you made was mad sarcastic. Okay, all right, cool. JP,
I'm also Zach. I'm JP. I've known David since college, and I love to talk to. Yeah,
that is a complete lie. But okay, all right.
I'm a really good listener.
Before we keep going, saying we know David from college, I guess I should organize some questions for like just what to introduce. Like, how old are you?
Lovely.
You know, what
I'm 28 years old.
Yeah. What do you do for work?
I work IT at an art school.
Okay.
I manage all of the technology, computers, and printers and whatnot, and I also manage the equipment that is available to be checked out to students. Whereas you got cameras, lighting equipment, audio.
Hey, bro,
equipment.
I only needed 10 seconds.
Bro, you asked, and I'm coming out.
And I appreciate it.
He started to ask.
I'm just playing. All right, JP, give us, age, what you do for work.
26 years old.
Yes, sir.
And I sell clicks on Google. I sell ads on Google.
It's true.
Any ad you see on YouTube and hate, that's me.
Actually, my mom pays for the premium, so I don't see any of the YouTube ads.
So you're hurting my paycheck.
Yeah.
Thanks. Tell her thanks. I appreciate that.
You're supposed to be supporting minorities.
Yeah, I use an ad blocker, but it's okay if I do.
Yeah. All right, Chris, give it to us.
So simple. My name's Chris. 26 years old. Not currently working. I'm in law school. Don't know what else. Favorite color is blue.
The Browns.
How much more time you got in law school?
He's
a
a
year.
bum.
Got a year. One more year, and then we'll be out.
Are you planning on staying in San Antonio, or are you planning on going somewhere else?
San Antonio would be good, but I'm not opposed to going back home to the valley, just being closer to family. But where the money's at, wherever the money's at, right? That's where we're gonna stay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like. All right, we've introduced these lovely gentlemen. Now it's time for me, your host, the one and only David Proctor Lamb. Boy, hey, what's good, y'all? It's been a minute. You know what I'm saying? I'm a fresh 28 now. Last time y'all knew me, I was 27. I'm a year older, year bolder. You feel me? I know more. But anyway, it's a pleasure to be back. Yeah, a lot of people, including Zach, have been hounding me to get this podcast back up. A lot of crap's happened. I moved. I got a girlfriend. Yo, that's a story, y'all. Y'all gonna get to see her eventually. Whoa. But anyway.
He surprised us all with that.
What you say?
Nothing?
Okay, I'm gonna play it back. You feel me? I'm gonna play it back, and I'm gonna see what you say.
I said you surprised us all with that, getting a girlfriend.
He's
I
not
surprised
wrong.
myself,
He's not
nigga. Hey, shout out to God. Shout out to God. But anyway, once again, we're here. I need to rename the podcast or remember what the name was.
Beneath the trees.
Yeah, I know. But I'm not sure if that's what I really wanted. Because I felt like we'll figure it out. But either way, whether it's Beneath the Trees or whatever else I decided to be, welcome back to the podcast. The overall premise is the same. We talk about introspective things that people, think about each day, don't really talk about, need to talk about more because they're important to your day-to-day lives within yourselves and how you relate to others and just the world around you. Like you guys remember before, we did purpose, we did trust, we did just general relationships in terms of boundaries and how you set them with people. And surprisingly enough, we're coming back to trust, but this time with a little bit more information behind it and just a bit of a resource to go off of, even though some people sitting at the the couch today don't really appreciate what was written, and we're gonna get into that too.
We appreciate it.
Oh,
I appreciate the attempt.
The attempt was there.
okay.
Yeah.
She's they're really going for self-enlightenment, and that's encouraged.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I will say. I mean, it's not really the most scientific book for sure. It's definitely more of a almost like a self-help in a way.
Yeah,
way of thinking of trust.
It had trademark self-help starting out.
Yeah.
I mean, the last sentence of it said, "Just watch. If you don't believe me, just watch."
Yeah,
I was
yep.
like, that's a shirt somewhere. I know that.
It's that 90-step plan, bro. But all right. Anyway, once again, we're here to speak about it. More specifically today, we're going to talk about trust in self or self-trust, and the importance of that and how it affects you, and just in general, how each person here has, developed it, how their environment has helped to cultivate it or hurt it, either way, and just really getting into that.
This is a cut in that I'm gonna put up in the middle, all right? Because they made the statement and it is correct. I should introduce the book before.
You put it right.
Hey yo, I should introduce the book before we really get into the questions. But anyway, the name of the book is Trust. It's by Ian Levan-Zant. Look it up on Google. It's around there. All right, that's where we're basing this conversation on. All right, cool.
So, I guess we'll get off on the docket. We did a little bit of pre-production, so everybody here saw the questions. Some people roasted me on it, but it's cool. It's all love. So, all right, just to start, and this is a bit of a paraphrase from the first chapter, which I failed to send these guys. I sent them the wrong chapter, but that's okay. Maybe that's why they didn't like it.
Dang. Yeah, I was looking at the questions and looking at the chapter. I'm like, I don't know how to answer these questions with this chapter.
Oh, like college.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But all right. So a little bit of a paraphrase here from the book talking about how children, develop their own sense of trust. So many psychologists believe that our basic sense of trust is established as early as our first year of life. When we're that young and as we're growing, our parents' ability to take care of us and meet our needs directly affects whether we develop trust or mistrust. If they succeed, we begin to depend on them. If they fail, we begin to mistrust others and question whether our needs are appropriate or whether we have any worth. In that same vein, the state of our environment and the things we experience there affect how we view the world. If there's constant argument and violence around us as we grow, even not directed at us, we begin to mistrust others. Now, obviously, right, and we talked about it a little bit beforehand, that's a bit of a generalization, and you have to think about, okay, at a year old, do we really understand the concept of trust? But generally, you understand what she's saying, right, in terms of, like, at 1 year old, if you've been consistently beat up every day, by 1 year, you're probably not trusting the people around you, right?
You're probably not remembering it either.
Well, trust.
I think that's
I would consider
questionable.
trust to be like consistent behavior that we experience. So yeah, I think what we walk through every day.
That's
what
what
we're
I'm
walking through every day is how we're going to respond to that particular
yes.
thing.
So trust, and this is honestly how I think of it before we get into this first question, and how I train my dog, funnily enough. But like, it's all about how you experience the world each day. Like, if it's positive or negative, you slowly are being coded and programmed to believe that when I wake up, this day is going to be negative because every day before it's been negative. If I see a human and every time he kicks me, every time I see a human, I think he's going to kick me, right? Is that type of thought process, right? And so I think that's what she's generalizing here as trust. But anyway, we'll get into that a little bit more here as we talk about the questions. But okay, how do you guys feel your childhood experiences affected or still affect your self-valuation of your needs? So like in the way that she said that if your parents fail to provide for you there, at some point you'll begin to question whether your needs are worthy or not. Once again, a question if you can do that at that age. But overall, as you grow older, did you guys experience any of that?
I didn't really understand the question, if I'm being honest. Like It was too vague.
It was a little vague. I'm gonna try to answer it.
Yeah.
And see if you guys can understand what I'm saying. When I was growing up, my my parents, the environment that I grew up in wasn't a one where I needed anything physically, like shelter or food wise or anything like that, but emotionally, it wasn't there. My dad physically wasn't there. He would, parents were separated for a little bit, got back together, but even then he was traveling all the time. And so I didn't have that consistent father figure until I was like probably 11. And even then, my mom growing up, when my dad left, it was like I was 5. My youngest middle sister was just born, and my mom was pregnant with the other one. And so they were separated. There was a lot my mom was going through. So there wasn't a lot of time for me to express what I wanted, express what I needed. And that just carried on as I got older. Myself was second, everything else was first. And so me needing to express what I want emotionally, physically, or sometimes even financially, really, I have a hard time putting that out there because I don't trust that people are going to value what it is that I want or need. And so I guess to answer the question, how does my childhood impact or affect, it's still affecting the way I am today, is that a lot of times I don't express my needs. If I have something that's bothering me or something that I want, I go and do it myself, or I figure it out on my own. I really have a hard time expressing that. And I've only recently started to learn how to lean on my wife, lean on my mom a little bit more, lean on my dad, ask questions, stuff like that, or even ask for help at work, stuff like that.
Got you.
So that's how I interpreted the question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if
that's
that helps
the
y'all.
exact question.
Okay.
No, I'll echo that too. Like, definitely agree. Like, I had a privileged childhood for sure. Like, both my parents, career parents. So, like, my dad was traveling a lot, and then he was studying to be an architect. So, like, when I was born, I think he was like taking his test. Not like the same moment, but like at that time that year. And then he was like studying to do like the lead certification. So it was like more just intense studying, traveling for work, all that stuff. And then my mom had worked at a bank, so she would leave super early, get home pretty late. So she would drop us off at a friend's house. We'd hang out with them, their family. They'd take us to school. We get picked up by a bus, go to a daycare for like hours, and then my tia would like come pick us up and then like take us home, and then they would come home, and then we'd go to sleep and all that. There's a lot of like self-sufficiency, I guess. Like, you just fend for yourself. You learn how to cook, clean, all that, taking care of Daniel. So I agree that like you don't want to like, yeah, like you kind of just learn like, okay, like we all got shit to do. They're doing shit. I got to do my own stuff. So I'm not going to ask for help. Not going to ask for money. Not going to ask for this or that. Just kind of figure it out on your own. And I think that kind of like plays into like the whole trust element, where it's not that like you don't trust people to help, but I guess that you kind of see it as being like a burden on someone else who might be busy. Like, everyone has their own stuff to deal with, so you don't want to like burden them with that. So in an element, like, you don't trust that you won't be a burden in that regard. But I think that's stretching it.
You kind of learned this self-reliance in a way. And so it's kind of hard to it's kind of natural now to do it on your own.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And in a way, it sounds like you both developed kind of the same form of self-reliance just based on your childhood experiences there.
Yeah, we are the same person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
We look the same.
Yeah.
Everything.
Same skin tone.
We swap driver's licenses on the weekends.
Oh my
I
God.
used his, even though he's younger than me, I used his driver's license to get alcohol.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Because I look younger. And so they compliment them. Like,
Wow. Oh my God. All right, Chris, you have a take on
I don't
that?
know. What do you feel? I'm still trying to
Me?
compose my answer. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. I mean, I would say there are a lot of different things that happened in childhood that have developed my ability to trust things, but just like a very specific one, bullying. And like, this isn't fully on my parents at all, but like elementary, middle school, a little bit of high school, I got bullied a lot. And it's just one of those things where, dependent on how a teacher handles it, heavily skews how you view an adult's ability to like actually protect you in certain situations when they're quote unquote supposed to be able to protect you, or
maybe if they're kind of apathetic about it, it also skews your view of, you know, how important you may be in the grand scheme of things. And so it definitely affected me a lot because ain't nobody do nothing. And I mean, you know, my mom is the type of parent who's like, oh, tell the teacher she doesn't want me to fight. I should have beat them niggas up. I was bigger than them. I should have knocked them out. And I will be telling my kids to beat the brakes off of a bully. But anyway, that also goes into anger. If one day we talk about that, boy, it's there. It's there. Bullying is a good way to build it. But either way, just I felt like the teachers, when I told them, they would not do nearly anything, bro. And I mean, you know, it's one of those things where people really don't take it into account, but there's all this little like kid politics, almost what I want to call it. Like if you snitch to the teacher, you're just gonna get it worse later. Because if well, the bully's not gonna like disappear, even if they're suspended, they're coming back, right? So it's one of those things. And I just kind of learned early. It's like, okay, well, unfortunately, right, there's not a whole lot of self-reliance unless I were to take it upon myself to, okay, let me beat this kid up, right? But I never did that. That's not the way I was raised. So instead, my self-reliance was inward. And so I learned to like hide myself and like really put a shell over who I was to protect myself as much as possible. And it, let me tell you, it echoed all the way here to right now. Because even now I have a hard time, you know, really letting, it takes me like years of knowing somebody, right, to be really comfortable with them. And then just out in public, I'm usually really quiet if I'm in a room full of people I don't know. Like it's the same thing. And so that's just how it is, because I wouldn't say that, you know, I innately think, okay, all these people in this room are going to negatively affect me in some way. But I'm just so worried about that subconsciously that I just don't even want to say anything. It's like, what if I mess up what I say? And then they're going to be looking at me bad in a weird way, or like, oh, wow, no one cares, right? But it's like, it's one of those subconscious things that's just been built up over time and is taking a really long time to break back down.
Well, kind of to echo what JP was saying, and I think my relationship with my parents didn't really truly affect how I evaluate my needs or how I evaluate what I'm thinking, or just like my own value. I really think they didn't affect it negatively, for sure. I don't think they did. But like, just to give some background, my mom was always around, right? And my dad was around for the most part for some things and not around for other things, right? But I think both of them, because they were older, at a certain point, they weren't working, right? So it helped financially a little bit, because like they would give me like, what's the word?
Like an allowance?
Like an allowance. There you go. Allowance, bro. Simple word just left my brain. But they would give me like an allowance for the month, and I already had a truck at that point. And they would say, hey, here's for gas, here's for food. Like you're going to go out, eat with your friends, is all you got. Like, make it work. That's for the whole month, right? So I think there was a lot of reliance there, like self-reliance, that I learned how to make decisions for myself at an earlier age, and not really worry about, oh, are my parents going to agree with this? Like, maybe not, right? They kind of gave me that rope to learn for myself. So I appreciate that. I don't think they ever did anything to make me negatively think, oh, snap, maybe what I was thinking there isn't that important, or maybe what I'm feeling right now is not important. I think emotionally, both my parents were very supportive in that regard.
Got you. Okay.
That's awesome. It sounds like you had a very good positive experience.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, in certain ways, right?
Yeah.
But I would say emotionally, they always want to support
Yeah.
your kid. I think that's most parents, right? Whether they do it or not, it's a different story. But I think most parents want to do that.
If you don't mind me asking, how old were y'all's parents when y'all were born?
Well, my mom was 36 when I was born.
Okay.
My dad was 40.
Okay.
So they were older.
Yeah.
Sure.
I honestly can give you a straight up age. My mom was in like college, or like, I don't know, dude, like 20, but she went to college later. So like 23, 24, 25.
Okay.
I think like 29, 27, but I'm just guessing.
Wow. My parents were 19 and 20 when they had me. So
Yes.
obviously there's younger people who've had their kids, but Yeah, my parents have learned a lot, and I've got the chance to see it a lot. So we were very close now, and so the experience that I had versus when I was younger versus the way I am now is it's night and day. So
Yeah.
it's definitely interesting to hear both people that have good experiences from when they're younger to where they are now, and versus positive experience where they were younger where they are now. So it's sometimes I wonder if age plays into that a little bit, and see if people who are older have a better understanding of like how to raise children, or if they don't. So
I think it's less age and more about like willingness to understand. Because like you can have a parent who's like in their 50s or like
and still
67 and like actually take an effort to understand like where you
Yeah.
are, where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Even if like the relation is different or like the environment's different, as opposed to someone who is like, what, 15, 19 years older than you and is kind of like in their own little world.
Mhm.
Or you're similar in age, but they are just like emotionally distant from you. I feel like it's just on the individual rather than, I'm sure age makes it easier,
Yeah.
but I definitely don't think it's like the determining factor.
I have to like agree with that. I think age does have something to do with it, but I do think the age plays into the willingness
Mm-hmm.
to want to hear you out as a kid. Because like maybe you're 20, 21, you have a kid and you're still trying to figure out stuff for yourself. So sometimes you might have to say, hey kid, I know you might be going through something, but I need to figure out X, Y, and Z before I can get to you, right? Priority list. You want the lights on? I might not be able to see you when you're talking to me. Like, I don't have the lights on for you. But I don't know. I think they play into each other pretty well. The age and willingness to be emotionally there for your kid. You know what I mean? Because if you're older, you have your stuff set out. I'm not worried about paying my rent next month, right? Or my mortgage next month. I can take care of the kid when he comes to me. So
I think it's also cultural too. Like
I think so,
in
too.
like Hispanic households, it's like at some point for many people, I would say like if you're like below a certain age or like in a certain position, it's like your opinion doesn't mean anything. Like your
Okay,
experience
that's-
doesn't mean anything. Like
Yeah.
I don't care what you've experienced. I'm your parent, whatever. It's you can do this because this is how we do it. Even like when you leave and you come back, like
Yeah.
your dad. If my dad was just like, "Why are you out so late?" I'm like, "I'm 26, but
Yes.
yeah, I guess I'm staying home. Like I don't want to disappoint him."
I can go out. No, you can't. You're in the house. You can't go out. Why?
Yeah.
Come back at 11. You gotta be back or 10, whatever.
Like I have my own house, and it's like, I guess I'm staying in. It's what it is.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, I agree. I think it's definitely more of a inexperienced thing and also a willingness to understand. I mean, I know that my mom personally like leaned on her mother a lot. So my grandma, when she had me, because one, right, she was younger. Mom, if you see this, you don't want me to say all this, I guess I can take it down, but it is what it is. She's a single mom. And I know that she just was still learning a lot and going through a lot. And so you want to lean on people who have a lot more experience typically. So bringing in, the older generation definitely helps. Cool. Oh, and also because of what you said, Chris, I do want to like state this because I don't know that we all did, but I know in some ways, right, we stated kind of how we develop our own self-reliance on certain things just from maybe slightly negative experiences or maybe just apathetic experiences, basically even kill. But you think of also a positive way your childhood affected how you trust today or how you value your needs. I mean, I guess I can just start. My parents, especially my mom, boy, because I'm her only child, like I never questioned whether or not my needs were important to someone, like period. It was never just me. And to this day, what she will call me, like, you need anything? I just wanted to check up on you. Like, it's a tiny gesture that she's been repeating for, how old am I? Like a long time, bro. But it's a constant reminder. And it's definitely like, I use the word programming, but like my brain knows that if crap really hits the fan, I am never alone. And I mean, I've seen that from other people too, for sure. Some of y'all amongst them, right? But like my mom is just, she proved it to me first, right? She proved to me that I can put my trust in other people, even if like, the bullying thing was, a rough road. Outside of that, I always knew when I went home, I had somebody, right? I was not alone in it all. And just aside from that, anything else that I might have needed emotionally, she was there for me. So that, hey, kudos to you, Mom.
Any positive?
Not a single thing. I don't know. I would say like with Reliance, you just kind of learn to do stuff on your own, of course. And I mean, I think that's a positive. I don't think it's like any negative impact, but like, I guess like now, like I don't never really needed anyone to like tell me, oh, you're worth this, or you know, you should put your feelings on the back burner or anything like that. Because it's always important to like you internally. So it's like, okay, if I think that I'm worth this amount of money, for instance, and the job's not paying me, I don't need someone else to validate that. It's to me like, okay, I'm not relying on them to tell me. I'm taking that into consideration, and I just need to do what I need to do to get it. Or even if something as simple as like, oh, I need a garden bed. Okay, well, I could pay someone to make a garden bed, but I also believe in my own skill that I can just learn how to make one and then make one and then make it better over time. And then, or cutting down a tree, just get a saw, get an axe, get some rope, get a ladder. It'll take a while, but you can do it.
Make sure it falls down on your house, right?
Watch a lot of videos on log cutting and how to make those cuts right.
Sounds to me like you preparing to cut a tree.
Already did.
Oh, you already did it?
Yeah.
Nice.
You split logs?
No.
You need. I was gonna say because there's just a lot of TikTokers that do that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
you should open up.
That's a fact.
You should do that.
Gotta be shirtless when you do
I
it.
will
You
not-
gotta be shirtless when you
I
do
will
it.
not download TikTok. It's,
Oh man,
That's fair.
That's a whole nother conversation. Downloading TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
it's,
take it off.
I have enough social media.
A cool platform. But yeah, it's a lot.
I'd say the same. Yeah, I know my parents are there for me if I need it. If there's anyone that I call, it's always first my mom, and then it's my dad. Like I guess something that I guess more concrete is recently at our house that we're renting is our AC just it wasn't cooling the house off. I don't know what the heck was going on. It was just hot. It would the thermostat would say like, I think we'd either put it at 68, we put it at 72. It didn't matter. It was hot. It was right when the temperature started rising back up again. So we were like, we don't know what's going on. And so what's the first thing I do? One, I hopped on YouTube to see if I can answer it myself. But two, I called my mom. She was like, I don't know, call your dad. So I called my dad and he told me it could be this. I went outside, checked. There's an outdoor unit versus an indoor unit. An outdoor unit's called a condenser. He's like, go out there, check. Is it on? Yes. No. Okay. Well, that's your problem. It's not on. And so he was like, since you're renting, you should probably call them, say, hey, we need a maintenance request. Come fix this. And it got fixed the next day. So it was something that I learned, like what to look for. The maintenance guy the HVAC guy came and looked at it. He's like, hey, you need to do this, this, and this for the next 8 weeks, and then probably every month after that. And so, but the point of it is that growing up, I didn't need anything because my parents were able to provide for me and now it's even then. So I don't know something. Yeah, I try not to call them because I want to figure this out on my own. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that I can trust from them is that if I need them, they're there.
Yeah, like a support network.
That's fair. And I give a shout out to dad knowledge because like they know a bunch of same for moms. They just know random stuff accumulated over the years. I don't know the goddamn first thing about an AC unit, bro. I'd be sitting there with ice bags on me trying to cool down.
We bought a portable AC unit from Home Depot.
Nice.
It was like $300, and I had to figure out how to put it up because our bedroom does not cool. It doesn't matter if the AC is working or not. There's this giant window. It's like this big, but probably a little bit farther. And obviously, people who are watching can't see it, but it's about 2 feet past this window. This window's pretty big.
The size of the couch.
Yeah, it's also got a semicircle window up top, so we can't even put blinds over that. It's just constantly getting beat by the sun, and so the room never cools off. And this is our bedroom, the one we sleep in, so it's miserable at night.
Oh man.
There was no fix for that because this house only has one AC unit. Most houses have one upstairs, one downstairs. It cools off both floors. Ours doesn't; it just has the one central one. So I had to buy that. That was a nice experience to learn how to cool off a house.
Yeah, life will make you learn.
Yes.
Yeah.
if it sucks enough, life will
Yeah,
make
yeah.
you learn.
Yeah.
I would say on the element of trust, I don't trust a single goddamn AC unit in any place. Like every apartment I've ever stayed at has had, except for the one that we were together at, has had a busted AC. Every single one. The house I just bought had a busted AC.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Does it work now?
it does now. Yeah, so many thousands of dollars later.
Oof.
Oh
But
man.
yeah,
So many dollars later. Yeah.
Bro, God's just preparing you.
For summer, he's preparing me for summer.
Things to look for when you buy a house:
Triple digits. Yeah.
the kitchen,
Yeah.
the bathrooms, the AC, and the roof.
I've learned that I don't like 2-story houses.
Facts.
I've learned that I don't like too much space. There's a perfect amount of space that I can have.
700 square feet.
More space, more AC,
A bigger backyard, even though I don't like doing the yard. But
or just get a riding lawnmower. That should be
I've
done
also
quickly.
thought about getting turf in my backyard
Oh,
because that would be so much easier to take care of.
if you ever get a pool in your backyard, I'd get turf.
Yeah,
I would just get turf. The heck with it.
Hmm.
Pool and turf, and now you ain't gotta worry about nothing.
we've got my dog has put trails of dirt
Oh God.
because of the paths that he takes. He's
Snap.
like it's like a NASCAR arena in the backyard because he's just
Yeah.
all day.
I like tire skid marks.
Yeah.
How fast he's moving.
he's taking turns,
Yeah.
digging
Oh my
holes.
God.
Should have named him something like Fred Flintstone or something because he's always moving. The way their feet move when they're driving the car,
Mm-hmm.
that's him. All day, every day.
He's running on diesel.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Turf. Might be getting some of that in my first house. Golly. I'm learning from y'all. All right, cool. So, I mean, honestly, we covered the first 2 questions already, basically.
All right, so it's over.
Yeah, no.
Hey, it's nice seeing you guys.
Nice seeing you.
Y'all have a good
Hey,
month.
yeah,
Take it
shout
easy.
out to y'all.
Hopefully, we don't take
Hey,
another year to come back.
See you next year, baby.
Good yearly talk.
New video every time I make one.
New
All
apartment
right.
too.
That's the trend. New apartment every time you record.
Yeah, exactly. 1 video per place. I'm gonna have to wait till my kid graduates college. No, I'm just playing. So number 3. All right, here we go. Define self-trust to me. In
I'm
your
not
own
going
words.
first because I don't know the answer.
No.
I don't know. For me, self-trust is like not trusting that I can do something, but the opposite. Like I trust that things will go wrong all the time, but I trust that I can like at least navigate that. Like I'm not gonna like sink into like a despair or like, oh no, like
Mhm.
HVAC didn't work or something. Like
Yeah.
just roll with the punches, just keep moving forward. Like things are going to happen. Just be able to trust that you can find your way out of it. And to me, I feel like that's opened up a lot of opportunity in terms of like being able to like make decisions, big decisions a lot quicker and just not have to worry about the possible outcomes. But whatever happens, I trust in myself that I can, resolve it in whatever way.
You know what's wild, bro? For the longest time, I would have classified you as a pessimist in a lot of ways, but like that statement was very optimistic.
Yeah.
What made you think he was a pessimist?
If you
Because I'm
sit in a room for
pessimist.
him for 10 seconds,
Just because someone
Yeah.
is dry
I am-
and sarcastic does not
I am-
mean we are.
I am realistic.
yeah, realistic.
I'm real. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You can be realistic and in some sense be
nah,
optimistic.
there is a level between. I'm not gonna get into it. I'm just saying there are levels to realism, pessimism, and optimism. Boy, you just keep people awake to the negative aspects. of life.
I think it doesn't need to be a binary between glass half full, half empty. I think at some point it's just a glass. Like, why bother thinking about it?
It's called pragmatism.
Yeah, like why? Like, what's the point in like being optimistic? Like, if you're hopeful, you get your hopes shattered. If you're pessimistic, then you're just burdening.
happy.
You're just burdening yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, why even think about an outcome that's never happened or is going to happen? Like, the only time you need to worry about it is when it's currently happening.
Yeah.
Are you sure? I think you may be on something. We might be the same person.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It's when I said hi, I'm Zach. I was not joking. Yeah, we're both art teachers,
Oh my god!
except neither of us is an
We're
art
both
teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You missed the mark.
That's another thing we have in common when we don't teach art.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. No, I like that answer though. And I think in a lot of ways I'm very much the same. In terms of how I think about self-trust. It's like it's definitely a belief that, and of course I place mine a little bit more, I have the whole God system thing, right? Because my parents have built that crap on me. It's like, yeah, you can believe in yourself, but ultimately God, it ain't happening unless God wants it to happen, right? So I still have faith, right, in the abilities that He's given me, whatever the case. That like no matter what happens, I'm gonna come out the other side of it. Whether that's through my own ability to do something or handle something, or through resources that have been put in place around me. I find that most often, quite honestly, it's because of resources put in place around me, right? Like, I don't know. I'm not the most resourceful, crafty dude on the planet, to be quite honest with you. It's either YouTube, friends, parents. It just kind of works itself out, thank God. But I have faith that it's always going to end up that way. And I guess you could classify that as self-trust, but I just have so much faith in what's around me, I guess.
Well, I would in the chapter you sent us, she had four kind of trust statements: trust in yourself, trust in God, trust in others, trust in life. And I think that is a
it's a trust in others.
Yeah, that's a trust in. There's you're hitting all four of those things right there.
That's fair.
I would say the I would call it what JP was talking about, the ability to adapt. That something's presenting in your life, you're trusting in life that something is going to happen, good or bad, and you're just, I don't want to say you're along for the ride, but you kind of are. You're kind of just responding in a way that things aren't as, I guess, you're changing and you're improving. You're constantly on the grind, stuff like that, and then trusting in God, having faith that things are gonna work out in your favor, and if you don't, you're still going to trust in God, whether despite the outcomes, despite the unfortunate circumstances, and trusting in others where having those chance to fall back on the people that we know to be able to build into us, stuff like that. And then, but to answer your trust in self, it's kind of like, I think the thing that I kept going back on when I was thinking about this, I don't think I fully know what the answer to self-trust is. Is I was thinking of like more like self-confidence.
Yes.
Being able to walk into a room with whether people that you know or people that you do, and just the things that you say, the choices that you make, the things that you do, they matter. Not to them, not to you guys of what I'm saying, but they matter to me. And I think making sure that my thoughts, feelings, and actions hold weight to myself, that's self-trust. And that I can confidently step into that. I think there's a lot of growth that I've had to do over my life to be able to say that, yeah, the things that I have to say or want to say have value, and I should put it out there. That's been a lifelong experience for me. It's only been the last few years where I've been able to comfortably step into that. So,
yeah, I'm glad you said that, because that was gonna be what I said, because I don't remember how long ago it was that I watched a video on self-confidence. It was like a short clip, and they said how self-confidence is basically your trust in yourself. And how do you get trust in yourself? Is when you keep yourself accountable and do things that you said you were gonna do when you said you were gonna do them, and achieve certain goals that you wanted to do. That all goes back to your self-trust. And when you have that, when you know you can rely on yourself to do what you said you were going to do, you can walk into a room and say what you want to say, because you have that self-value for yourself. Like, hey, this person in me has been accountable to me, right? This person's done what I said was going to be done, right? And set out to achieve what I set out to achieve, right? So when you say something, when you do something, you will automatically give it its true value, because you're not worried about what X, Y, or Z person's going to say. You know the value that you're trying to do or trying to give, or the value that those words have or those actions may have. So.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between trust, confidence, reliance, and faith. And I don't know the exact difference, but I feel like when you have like a micromanager, like a boss who is constantly like on you trying to get something done, right? They rely on you to get it done. They do not trust you to get it. Because if they trusted you, you'd be working autonomously. They wouldn't need to check up on you.
Mhm.
But still, they are expecting you to be reliable and to actually follow through with the changes that they're making or suggesting or what. And then in terms of like confidence, I think you can trust someone without being 100% confident in them. Like, I don't have confidence in myself that I will send an email when I need to. But like, I don't trust myself with those small tasks, but I trust myself from like a character perspective that I have my best interest in mind. So like, I would trust, I don't know, like you to not necessarily do something that you say you're going to do, but at least make the effort or make the conscious decision to try. Whether you're capable of it or not, I think that's where the confidence comes in. Like, I have 70% confidence that you're capable of doing it, but I trust you enough that I'm willing to not prepare for the worst, kind of thing. And as for like faith, like you can have faith in something, but I feel like having faith does not require a commitment on the other person's part. Like, God has not committed anything to you. He's just simply there and, you know, guiding you, and he has proven that, you know, he has your best interest at heart in your mind. And so you can put your faith in him that, you know, whatever the tough times come, he'll lead you through it. As opposed to trust, where it's like you can trust someone to do something, and if they don't follow through on something they committed to showing up at 7 p.m. They don't. Okay, now you're betrayed, kind of like they lied to you. Their character is called into question, or maybe their follow through is called into question, like the task. But can you really trust something that does not make that commitment to you? Like, can you trust that your house will still be there for the passage? Like, you leave every day trusting your house will still be standing. And when you come home, if that house is not standing, do you feel betrayed by the house? The house never made that commitment to you. It was your expectation. You were relying on it. And I think that like trust has elements of reliance and faith and all that stuff. And I think they're correlated, but I think that they can exist.
I think they're
to
like
some
Venn
degree.
diagrams.
Yeah.
You got like they have their own place, but they also kind of overlap
Yeah, exactly.
with the
I
other
would-
things.
I would agree with that. And I think the dynamic changes. You start talking about trust with other things, I would agree with you. I think the trust with yourself has, like, you need to rely on yourself. And when you've been able to rely on yourself successfully, that builds the trust. When you have that kind of trust in yourself, it just almost naturally turns into like a certain self-confidence to lean on yourself, to lean on your certain value. So I think the dynamic changes because, yeah, if we're talking about trust in a house, yeah, I'm not going to be mad that let's say it burned down one day, like, oh, snap. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think I'd be pretty mad that it burned down.
Well, yeah,
but are
I'd be
you mad
but I don't
at
think
the house?
But not at the house.
I wasn't
Yeah,
trusting
yeah.
the house
Yeah.
to not, hey, don't burn down.
Damn it,
As
house, this
opposed-
is your fault.
As opposed to like asking your neighbor, like, hey, can you water my plants? You come back, they're dead. And it's like, okay,
I'm
I
never
feel
gonna ask them to do that again.
you lost trust in something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like now you feel betrayed. You feel like they lied to you. You won't trust them about smaller things or larger things in the future.
I like that you mentioned that because something in the chapter was saying, kind of like what we were talking about before this recording started, was that trust is innate, right? But so is adapting is
Mhm.
innate, right? So
Yeah.
your trust can be there. When it's betrayed, you adapt.
Yeah.
So it's almost bad to just innately just go off of trust. You see betrayal and then don't adapt.
that's the
now you might
question is
just
like,
go-
if
But I also
if-
think trust is like a spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have like, I trust these things to happen, and then I don't even want to say that I don't trust these things to happen. I actually tend to think that you either trust something's going to happen or you trust the opposite's going to happen. In the middle is where the uncertainty and mistrust comes into play. So it's kind of hard with adapting. It's a bit of a toss or turn of what you're actually trusting. You're either trusting or you're just unclear of what's going to happen. It's been kind of being able to predict things. I
Yeah.
taught math for a long time, so I'm trying to make it make sense logically in my head because is it a linear thing? Is it not a linear thing? And what's this ball of uncertainty of when I can trust myself, when I can trust other people?
I mean, can you trust other people without trusting yourself? Because for me, at least, like when I trust myself, I trust that I can clean up a mess that happens. I can adapt, which makes it easier for me to trust other people, even if I only trust them 80%. Like, for example, we're working together. I ask you to do something. I have 80% confidence or trust that you are able to do it in the time that, we need to,
Mhm.
given everything else. But that 80%, that's my threshold. I'm like, yeah, I trust you. If something goes wrong, we'll deal with it then. But
Mhm.
I don't need 100% trust, or rather confidence, to
Yeah.
initiate that. So what is this threshold vary by people? What
Are
does
you,
it
say,
depend
are you
on?
saying you hold the same expectation for yourself as you would David in a working sense, that you trust yourself 80% of the time to get that job done?
I definitely have a threshold for myself too, but I think it's more so like knowing people's
Because-
faults.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I'm gonna compare it to like team sports or work or like playing Rocket League or something, where it's like you see other people doing something that they need to do. They're in position, they need to fulfill their role. I think you have to innately trust them at first, be successful. And even if they continually make mistakes, I think the productive way to go about it is to recognize those mistakes and to identify their faults and just accept their faults. So I still trust you to do what you're going to do to the best of your ability to fulfill your job, to send an email, to file the paperwork. But I also know that you have a tendency to show up late or to have a typo. So I still trust you with these tasks, but I don't trust you with the element of doing it to perfection. So that's where I'm going to step in. So it's like kind of fragmenting it in that way. Like you can trust that 70%, but then still trust yourself to a different degree. Like I trust you 100% to do this way, but 10% to finish it or something. So I don't know how that works in terms of like fragmenting and whether or not that plays into like the whole element of trust, or if they're two different.
Trust is wildly complicated to
Scenarios,
just
yeah.
define in one like easy
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah.
I think
I mean, it's-
for me, it goes into like categories of people, certain levels of trust, and then those people are subdivided into categories of tasks or issues or things that need to be done. Like I might, let's say like my wife, I trust her 100%, right? Or let's say 98% to do almost everything, right? Like anything that I know that she needs to get done, she gets done, right? Anything that I need to get done, I'll get done. But let's say like certain things, now this might go into like some gender roles or whatever, but who cares? I'm not going to trust my wife to know maybe how to polish her car really well, right? I'm gonna bring her trust in that specific area way down because I know she doesn't have experience in that. But like, let's say an uncle that I know has done it, that trust is gonna go up. Now I'm not gonna trust my uncle to cook this certain spaghetti that I like it. Like, you know what I mean? Like different things for different people. I think that's how I'm categorizing the levels of trust, right? And it's,
that was the hard part about defining self-trust, because you
Mhm.
have this like idea of what trust is when it comes to other people and the things that are happening in your life. But when you're talking about like self-trust, well, we've talked about confidence, reliance. We've talked about having some kind of self-worth, or the ability to adapt as life throws stuff at us. At what point in time, like how do we easily define what self-trust means? Do we trust ourselves in the same way that we're trusting other people? Do I trust myself to consistently take out the trash? No, because I take it out whenever it gets full. And or even when it is full. Sometimes I'm like, I'll do it later, and then I forget. Or same thing with the dishes. I do the dishes every morning at like probably 6 to 6:30, because there's a time I get up at the same time every day, and there's a window of time where it's idle because it's right before I go to work.
Mhm.
And so, do I do it all the time? No. Do I trust myself to do it? Well, 70% of the time. And so I guess when you had the question posted, I was like, I don't know the answer to this. It's
I mean,
really vague.
I can give you an answer based on what the book is saying, but I would say also, when JP brought up the difference between, reliability, confidence, trust, and those things, in my head, they're all just everything except trust, right? They're all just scales of trust, of how much you can trust in something.
The word I saw online was integrity too.
Integrity is
One's
part of trust.
integrity.
Yeah.
But you keep going.
No, yeah, for sure. And the same with like, what is it? Fidelity. All those things are like parts of trust or grades of it. But like just talking about reliability, it's just the quality of being trustworthy or of performing consistently well. So like even in the writing of the definition, it's like you understand it. They're not always going to perform well, but
You're being
consistently, you know,
consistent.
they're pretty, you know, 70%, maybe 80% of the time, they do what you expect them to do. And so in that way, they are reliable, right? Some people are more reliable than others, just depending on the percent that they get it done. But it's still, in its own way, a degree of trust, right? Or like trust is not, I think it can be 100% right, but almost rarely. Like someone really has to be like, you might trust Jesus to do everything he said he's gonna do, you know. But other than that, it can be tough, right? It's like 99% for most people that you trust the most, right? But
And I think that's where what faith is not explicitly defined, but that is that 100% trust.
mhm,
And it has a religious connotation, of course. But like when people say like, "Oh, I trust that things will work out. I trust in God that things will work out." I have 100%
Yeah.
trust.
Yeah.
If you have 90% trust, then is it really faith?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think that like because each one of them has their own definition and their own connotation, it's like they're all, like you said, scales or buckets that all contribute to trust or faith as a whole. But trust itself, I think, is one of those buckets.
Yeah.
So it is the component and the whole,
Mhm.
which makes it.
It is a little
It's
confusing.
a quite broad
Yeah, there's just
topic.
there's
That's
a
why I
lot
love
of
the
things that are in the
subject.
circle, right?
Yeah, that's why I love it.
Yeah.
I love how broad it is.
I
but-
do have a question though.
Yeah.
Expectations versus trust. How obviously when we trust people, we're kind of expecting them to behave in a particular way. Or
Mhm.
expect them to say or do things like what we have pictured for them or the behaviors that they've created.
I think expectations are like a weaker form of trust. Because I think expectation is similar to an assumption. Like, but then trust is like you have that extra confidence. Like, you
So
expect
it's just like a
something-
reassurance that I know that you can do it, whereas expectations is like the certain thing that I've assumed that you'll be able to do.
I'm not sure.
Expectations and trust are somewhat on the same level, except I think expectations go off of, how do I say this? I think trust goes off of consistent what's the word I'm looking for? Just basically consistency in what you've done, right? Like let's say I wake up at 4:00 every morning. I can trust in myself that I'll wake up at 4:00 every morning, right? But let's say I don't know a certain person as much. I have a certain expectation, even though I don't know this person. I have an expectation I'm not gonna freaking just get up and hit me, right?
Mhm.
Maybe when I'm making a joke, I have a certain expectation they're not gonna just get up and slap me, right? Maybe that expectation isn't well founded, but at least that's the expectation based off of maybe societal norms or situational norms. I think expectations are, the premise is based off of something more or less substantial, like some type of norms or certain, yeah. So trust are like correlated with your personal experiences with this person. The expectations are based off of some norms or traditions or whatever that you have with. That's how I'm thinking of the two.
Do you think rules eliminate the need for trust?
No,
Unless like
because you can't always trust people to follow the rules. And
yeah,
I think
it's
like
impossible.
But let's say that there are consequences to breaking the rules.
still, I mean, there's
I mean, we
consequences
have
now.
laws.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I think-
Unfortunately.
I think part of that, I think it's inherent with the laws. Like if you think
Okay.
about how we don't allow felons to have guns, right? Like we have laws that say you shouldn't be killing people, right? But
they-
certain people have
yeah.
already broken those
Exactly.
laws. So it doesn't mean, hey, just because we have the laws, we should just trust them. No, they've proven themselves not to
Mhm.
That makes
follow
sense.
the
yeah.
rules. So we
Yeah.
got to adjust, right?
But I feel like that's different when you go into like institutional trust. Like, do you trust? I mean, you go to school, you go to UT thinking like, oh, I'm going to get a great job when I leave or something. And if you don't, then it's like, okay, your trust is kind of broken. You feel betrayed. You feel like you were let down. But were you let down by the school, or were you let down because you put your trust in your teachers and your parents and the advisors telling you to go? Like, at what point does that get put onto the actual like regulation of it? Like, do you not trust the corporations telling you that something's eco-friendly, or are you not trusting the marketers writing that, or the people branding it, or the owners positioning it in the way? Like, is it the institution itself that, you know, you have that doubt towards?
Mm.
Which I feel like is what expectation is that an expectation is something that you still have an element of doubt about. Because if you didn't have that doubt, is it trust? Like, are you trusting it to happen? Or can you expect something and be 100% confident that it will?
That's where I get back into like, I don't think the word trust, ever indicates 100%. Most of the time it doesn't indicate 100%, trust in something, right? It's like you can have doubt about something, but still trust it. That's how I think about things. And when I think about expectations, I think that it's a far wider bucket even than trust is. Like, I don't think you can trust something without expecting it to do something. Like if I trust you to wake up at 4 or whatever, I'm expecting you to wake up at 4, And so like, I can't say it without expecting.
And when I explain the trust and expectations, I think trust will encompass the expectation.
Mhm.
Expectation doesn't encompass trust. Like,
See,
I think it's completely...
Yeah, see, that's where I think the other way around, right? But I also believe...
Expectations encompass trust?
Yes, I believe that trust falls in the bucket of expectations, but I also think expectations is a side. That's why I think trust is like a circle in the big expectation circle, and there is all this other stuff. Because I can expect something without trusting in it too.
That's what I'm trying to...
Yeah. So like, that's how I would think about it. Like, you can expect a lot of things and not have trust in it.
I can expect my mail to get here in 2 days, but I don't necessarily have trust in it that it might get there in 2 days.
Yeah, but and that's where it gets there's so much, because like, you might trust for it to show up in 2 days, but I don't know. I don't freaking know, y'all.
See, the way you use the term is also different, right? You got to define the terms. Right?
Yeah, I almost feel like they're synonyms in my own. Like, you either trust and expect something, or you don't trust and don't expect it.
And that goes,
well, I had the trash. My trash gets picked up on Friday. You got the black, the blue, and the green that I put out. Blue and green, organic and recyclables. They go out on Tuesdays. Black goes out. It's our trash on Fridays.
Yeah.
Lately, I've been working from home on Fridays since January, and one of the things that I do on Friday in the morning, probably like 8:30, is I put the trash out, because what they have shown me over the last 6 to 7 weeks is they show up about 12:30 to 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. So to kind of clarify on expectation and trust, I'm trusting that my trash is going to get picked up on Friday. I'm expecting them to be there at 12:30 to 1. However, yesterday they didn't show up till 5:30.
Gotcha.
So
I have a question. So in that scenario, you're trusting the driver, the team, and you're also expecting them to do this thing by a certain time.
Yeah.
If the driver were to change, do you have the same trust? Do you have the same expectation?
I have a blanket driver. I don't see a particular person.
No,
So,
I know, but like, assuming that the person changes,
same person every
do
time.
you have the same expectation that whoever is driving, no matter who it is, that the driver, a person,
I guess it goes
anonymous,
back to the institutional thing. I do expect it to be the same time at every Friday,
because they're associated
because
with,
they're associated with this group of people.
so then you have that expectation and the trust in the institution, but not in the people.
Sure, that's one way to look at it.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I mean,
it can get into the weeds, for real.
We've gotten into the weeds. We left self-trust 20 minutes ago.
But I mean, it's because like, you have trust, which is a noun and a verb, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can trust someone to do something. You can also trust in them to like be a certain way, like as a character.
Yeah.
But then you have faith, which is just like, it's just a noun,
Mm-hmm.
And so like, when you start encompassing all that stuff, it's like, okay, well, at what point are they inversely correlated? At what point can you have one without being 100% in the other? Like, I think there's like a mix of buckets and Venn diagrams, but
Yeah, I mean, one
expectations
day we'll make a
encompass
graph.
faith encompasses expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Someone needs to make a visual.
Yeah, we'll make one. We're gonna make one. Hey, yeah, don't. But just to answer the self-trust question, right, from the book, what she wrote, okay?
Which we didn't read.
Next time I get the right chapter, y'all. You know, it's the first one. I'm allowed to be rough. So her definition: self-trust is the development and mastery of an unwavering, unquestionable inward conviction about your own value, worth, and ability to be, to create, and to enjoy all that you desire in the process of living and learning more about yourself. So a lot of that sounds like self-confidence, right?
My hope is that that's without arrogance. Right?
Not stated here.
Specifically with
You
arrogance.
can have self-trust in yourself and be mad arrogant. I could imagine.
But no, that's what I'm saying. My hope is that it's not.
Well,
I guess on a side note is
Some people would categorize self-confidence to an extent as an extent
of yeah.
arrogance.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe not just don't be too arrogant, right? Where it's detrimental to somebody or somebody else. That's what we're talking about.
Oh, I agree.
Mhm.
But just the second half of this too. He said this requires an inner belief that you can rely on your own character, abilities, strength, and capacity to know the truth and act upon that knowledge in a self-supportive manner. In other words, trusting yourself means having the confidence in yourself to do what is best for you moment by moment. And if the choices and decisions you make do not work out for your highest good, you know and believe that you will still be okay. That's what self-trust is.
But can you trust yourself to not do something? Like I trust myself to forget certain things.
I think
Which
that's
is
a lack
not-
of trust, to be quite honest.
But I'm trusting in myself. I'm confident that they will happen. I'm expecting it to happen. I have 90% confidence that I will forget to set an alarm.
That's where
And
we
I
get into
trust that I will forget to set the alarm. That is harmful to me. Does that not go against the definition of her self-trust?
Well, okay. So when I think of trust, hold up, let me see.
What if I just drive by a taco joint on the side of the road and I say, you know what? I'm not going to spend money today. I make the decision that I'm not going to. And I say, I don't trust myself not to stop at that place.
It's true. I don't trust myself not
I
to
don't
play
trust
video
myself
games
not to get
until
breakfast
2 a.m.
tacos.
Okay, yes. So what you're saying is the action itself, whatever it is that you're trusting in, can be positive or negative. It's just trust itself is just a level of how strongly you believe that that is going to occur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
So instead of saying that you can trust in yourself that you will still stop.
Yeah, I think
Yes,
you
yes,
can
yes.
trust
Which is
in
what
a
I was saying
negative
earlier. It's a
consequence.
spectrum. Is that you're either trusting that something's going to happen, whether that be what you want, whether it's not what you want. You're still trusting. The only part that mistrust for me, or not having self-trust or any kind of trust really, is when there's uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to do this? Am I not going to do this? Well, obviously you know yourself pretty well. So in self-trust, it's kind of, there's no uncertainty. You're either going to do it or not.
Well, here I would say there is uncertainty, right? Because let's say you made that question to yourself, like, "Hey, I'm not gonna stop, right?
Uh-huh.
I do not want to stop, right?" But in the back of your head, you have a self-trust that, dang, I've stopped there every single time, right? That's the uncertainty. Am I gonna do it or not? Until the very game time decision, until you actually.
So so at that point, I guess, what point does it become uncertainty into my trust in myself that no, I am going to stop, even if I said I don't want to?
I think of it as like acceleration. Like you can accelerate a car, but you can't decelerate. You can just slow down or accelerate in an opposite direction. You know, like you're not undoing what you did in a reverse order. You're just doing the same thing, but you know, backwards.
So if you're walking, you're not turning around going the opposite direction.
You're
You're
still
either just
walking.
walking. Oh, you're still walking. Direction doesn't matter.
No, because if you're walking this way or you're walking that way, you're still walking. So if you're trusting positive consequence or you're trusting in a negative consequence, you're still trusting.
So
Right?
you're always saying that there is an innate sense of trust.
No, I'm just saying that like it is the same act, right? Like the verb, the act of trusting, you are trusting that something will happen or that someone will be a certain way or that some commitment will be upheld.
Regardless of whether it's positive or negative.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's consequence, and it doesn't matter what that consequence is because you still are
Trusting in that.
effectively,
Mm.
yeah, and be colloquially like putting your faith in that thing happening,
Got you.
better or worse.
Yeah,
I see that.
I think that people generally, and probably definitely the way she's using it in this book, like people generally use trust to denote how much they believe
A positive
a
thing.
positive aspect is going to
So
happen.
trust.
Yeah.
So what she's
You either
saying is trust
or
is
you
positive.
do not trust, right? It's usually how it goes. It's
But
not
you-
like a
But in that book, she also says the whole quote about the police officers trusting that
Yeah.
something bad will happen,
mhm.
which goes against this whole point of trusting in a positive
Yeah,
outcome.
she uses trust in that
Right.
in that aspect as
Mhm.
a negative.
Yeah, so-
connote
That's
it.
true.
I mean, it's like it's like a double negative. You can distrust that something good will happen. You can distrust that something bad will happen. You
Mhm.
distrust the bad, that means you trust the good. Right? But it's the same situation.
That makes sense.
You're still walking. Doesn't matter what direction. You're still distrusting, it doesn't matter the consequence. You're still trusting,
Okay.
it doesn't matter the consequence.
So if someone were to say that I don't, let's just generalize it. In a relationship, the one person loses the trust of another, right? That, let's say person A cheats on person B and B says, I don't trust you anymore. Are they trusting that What are they not trusting, or what are they trusting?
They are trusting that they will cheat.
The character, like they
They were
I think,
trusting that
Okay,
they won't
so
stay, that they won't adhere to
They're
their
not going to
fidelity.
continue to be faithful.
Yes.
Gotcha.
or rather, like you lose trust in the concept that that other person has your best interest or is committed to the relationship.
Yeah.
Not
Alright.
that maybe they won't cheat again, maybe they don't, but at the very least, like they have broken that cycle, like a series of expectations
Yeah.
instead of just one when it's like character related. I think.
I think that's a good way to describe trust as a certain action, right? Regardless of the consequence of the thing you're trusting in, right? Because I agree with David. Most people associate trust with a positive thing. Like, I trust you to get this work done. I trust that you won't cheat on me.
Yeah.
I trust that I'll have food today,
Mhm.
right? But then there's a lot of people that use trust in the exact opposite way, right? Like the cop situation or kids that don't have a lot of food. I trust I won't have food today, right?
Yeah, but I feel like they would never say.
They would never
if they
say
were
it
to
that
say it
way.
in a sentence, they would not use the word trust, right?
I can guarantee.
Like,
I can guarantee.
yeah. I mean, I definitely I agree with the statement because you can trust in either side of the spectrum, but I think in its use colloquially, we
Mhm.
don't use it as a negative.
So I have a question about that. If let's say, so I'm agreeing with you 100%. I
Nice.
think
Thank
it's you're trusting, period.
Mhm.
Whether something, it doesn't matter what's happening.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're either walking or it doesn't matter the direction you're walking.
Mhm.
What is it a difference in? It might be personality, or like we were talking about optimism, pessimism, realism. How does those three things come up in y'all's opinion about how trust is viewed?
Bro.
See, I'm a very realistic person because I adapt.
Yeah.
And I take things as they come and I respond in manner. And so trusting like that, I trust things to happen, period, is a natural thing for me. But like with David, you're an optimism. You're optimistic.
Mhm.
Are you not?
Yes.
So would you not say that you trust is more of a positive statement, whereas mistrust is more of a negative statement?
Correct.
So what if someone were to be a cynical person or a pessimistic person? Would they say, I trust bad things to happen? It would be a negative statement. And mistrust would be, I don't know how you say mistrust is a positive statement.
No, I agree with that. I mean, it makes sense. Like if you talk about, like I'm gonna say McDonald's giving you like a Big Mac or something, and they always get your order wrong, and you're a pessimistic person, you still want the food, but to a degree, you are trusting that they're gonna fuck it up.
Yeah.
But you're still doing it. You're still going, but
Mhm.
that's you trusting in a negative manner.
That comes out with me checking the bag before I even take off.
Yeah,
I
you
check the
know
bag
something's
before I
gonna
even
be
take
missing.
off, dog.
That's facts.
You could honestly, you have faith that something's missing. How much it happens,
Mhm.
like.
Yeah, I think it does have to do with how optimistic, pessimistic, realistic someone is. Like based off my experience in law school and like that sphere of the world or society, I think realism is definitely a bigger thing. I think I see more people that are realistic that might use trust. Like I trust you to fuck it up in a sentence.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? As opposed to sometimes when I hang out with David or Josh, like I see the difference in how someone might use trust just in like the two circles that I hang around in. So I would definitely agree how you view the world, how optimistically you might look at things will change how you think of trust and
So it changes the connotation of the
Yes.
words that you use.
Absolutely. And
how it can be used. Yeah.
Yeah.
that is something called ego that we'll talk about later too. But that perfectly ties in to when I was saying that JP was a pessimist and you guys started saying, well, he sounds realistic to me or like pragmatic. And I was like, I wonder if it's because I am optimistic, I set my bar somewhere different than where like a realistic person would or a pragmatic person would. And so when someone says something, like
I
let's
would
say-
agree because my mom is an optimistic person, and
Mhm.
I don't rain on her parades
Mhm.
because I know my mom. She really wants good things to happen, but at the same time, when she presents an idea or something, the back of my head is always turning. What about this? What
Mhm.
about this? What about this? And so, yeah, I I would not be surprised if both my mom and my sisters view me as like it might be sometimes a pessimistic person.
Mm-hmm.
So now I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, and they're definitely like different. Like if you set your expectation far left and pessimism is far right, then anything below your bar is going to be seen as pessimistic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think going back to the book, I think us three might be somewhat similar in that aspect because this maybe goes back to like my personal experiences, but when I'm reading a book, for the most part, the most reading I've done is in law school. When I'm reading a law book, I think the perfect quote was, the only reason that this case is in this book is because something fucked up. So I'm always reading it with a critical eye, right? So the first time I sat down and read the book or read the chapter that he sent, I was arguing with this lady.
Dude, me too.
The book.
Man.
I was arguing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think honestly that's a normal thing. I was reading it solely to get questions out of it. It's not like I'm reading it like it's the Bible, right?
No, yeah.
But and I even argue with the Bible, and I guess that goes to show, right? No one's all optimistic, pessimistic, whatever.
Yeah.
But either way, no, it makes sense, and I definitely expected y'all to come in here, you know, because I'll be honest, like the wording. Sorry, Yana, if you see this, it's fluffy, right? It's a fluffy book.
It's a self-help book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's not, but it's not. It's also not meant to be really scientific, right?
It definitely, I think it does seem to, it falls in the self-help category in terms of like it wants to get you
Buying more books.
maybe
Fired up, motivation.
fired up, motivated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's also because she's also a life coach, right? So
There you go.
the
Yeah.
people she's interacted with, a lot of them just have a whole lot of negative experiences. And I think just in her, and probably generally, the best way to get people out of it is not to feed them
Yeah.
a lot of like negativity. You can either be neutral or you can try to be a little bit more positive about it. And
Well, you want to fluff them up, make them feel good.
yeah, yes, and it helps, and I think it also helps you get out of the slog of reality all the time. Because I know that they're, you know, a person who's truly in a negative state is constantly thinking about the world and it's the weight of it.
And see, when I hear fluff, I attribute it to like there's some BS hiding behind a fluff.
That's what fluff is. It's just I need to hit my word count.
There might be some like when I'm thinking about fluff, I think about the emotional arguments in books or like in some cases, right? They're alluding to some type of emotional argument. That's BS, right?
Well, you could see it in like a newspaper article. It's
Right,
a fluff
yes,
piece.
yes.
It's a fluff puff piece, and to make it
Say that again.
fluff puff piece.
Fluff puff.
Fluff.
Fluff puff.
I can't even say it.
Fluff puff. Fluff puff.
But no, I agree. I think any emotional statement made that isn't scientifically supported is almost always going to sound like fluff, even if it's true, right? It's like if I am, I can't even make a general statement, but like, I don't know, read
You'll
a
be
page out of
happy.
the book.
Read a page out of the book.
What's up?
You'll like some kind of statement like you'll be happier if you do X,
Yeah.
Y, and Z.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like, but it's like you'll be happier if you think in this way, right? Not even because if you say X, Y, and Z and give me real like actionable statements,
Yeah.
maybe it's more, you know, scientific. But if you just tell me, oh, I need to think more like this, it'll make my day happier. It might be true for some people, right? But generally, it's like, I don't know. That could definitely not be true, right? And that's what I define as fluff. Something that's really general, really vague. There we go. It's a vague statement that may be
It's
true.
supposed to make you feel good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in general, just to go back to what you're saying about how her statement may be from a positive aspect, and I'm not going to say it's correct in every way, but it makes sense, right? Because she's essentially saying self-trust is based on your own self-confidence, and it actually echoes a little bit of what you were saying in terms of, yes,
No.
in terms of what you learned from your environment
This
early.
person and JP will never get along.
Yeah, I know. Even though they probably would agree on a lot of things, but in the way you said that you believe that regardless of what the world throws at you, you're gonna be okay by the end of it. That's literally the last sentence that she writes in this definition. Self-trust.
Oh, look, I said this first and she wrote it. That was-
Okay, I see.
yeah.
Trademark.
It just popped up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's just the general idea is that you have enough self-confidence, self-belief in yourself that no matter what happens, you're going to be able to make it through it. And that's her general definition of self-trust.
Okay.
So, yeah. So with that in mind, or you can play off your own definitions of self-trust as you will, but where would you say you are on the road to mastering self-trust? So
I'm done.
when I say this, what's up?
I think I'm done.
You're done.
100%.
But when I say this, I mean like by master, I mean like have 100% trust in yourself.
I have
Right?
faith.
Like where are you on? You have faith. And I guess I should say this too. We probably shouldn't factor in the negative belief of trust because you could probably. I trust myself to not do a lot of things. I'm probably 90% of the way right now. But if I'm
trust you to
thinking
upload
in a
this video.
positive, what's up?
I said I don't trust you to upload the video.
Oh my god, it's gonna happen though. But if we record it anyway. But it's
What?
It's recorded.
We better be like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
trusted me to press the record.
I trusted him to mess it up.
No, I just snipped a picture of a red button and put it. But nah, but like just in general, think of it for this question from a positive perspective of like, okay, from her definition, I guess. So erase what I said about your own definitions. But from a positive perspective, how much you trust in yourself to handle whatever the world throws at you. Where do you think you are? Like you can put it on a percent scale.
Good 10.
10%.
10 out of 10.
Oh my god.
10% out of 10%.
That's 100%. Okay.
Yeah.
So you fully believe you can handle whatever the world throws at you. You have faith in your ability.
Yeah.
I mean,
what in my mind, there's no other option.
Gotcha.
You know, like you just do it. There's no point worrying about it. There's no point preparing for it.
Do you think that there's any aspect of yourself in the spectrum of trust where you feel like sometimes you, like even today, right, may rely on other people around you who you think are more trustworthy in that certain aspect?
I would say so, but I don't think it's because they're more trustworthy. I think it's like I'm not gonna, I guess, to make it more complicated, I'm not gonna trust myself to set up this audio equipment because I have zero knowledge of audio equipment.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not necessarily me putting my trust in you to do that because I don't trust myself to do it. I just don't have the knowledge to do it. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
As opposed to I trust that if I were to figure it out, I could probably set it up over time.
Okay.
You know, so it's like not a lack of trust in the ability, but I guess, yeah, I guess, I don't know, like delegation.
No, well,
I think
I mean,
you can.
Yeah. So if we're thinking from the positive aspect, what you're saying makes, I guess you could say that you have a lack of trust in yourself to properly set it up, right? But that's just, you don't have enough knowledge of it.
Yeah,
Well,
and
I would
don't-
say he trusts his limitations.
Yeah, and I trust myself
See.
to know the limitations and to
Yeah, and-
overcome them if needed. But
Did she just yelp?
I think so. She might be having a nightmare.
Oh,
But okay, yes. But once again, right, that's when we're adding the negative spectrum of trust, right? At that point, you're trusting yourself not to be able to do something because you understand. that you
no,
don't.
I think I'm just trusting myself to not overexert or to overextend. You know, I don't think a limitation is a bad thing. I think knowing your limitations, if anything, is the best thing, as opposed to being like negative.
No, I think it's useful, but I feel like at that point you just start changing the words around, right, in the sentence until it's, I don't know.
That I mean that's basically what the passages were doing, isn't it? Trust is a positive, trust is a negative, trust is inherent, trust is learned. You know, like it's arguing all things at the same time, which is fair because trust is vague. Like that's the whole point. Like it can be positive, it can be negative.
Mm-hmm.
So saying let's evaluate it from this specific aspect takes away arguably 50% of its meaning.
So the reality of what trust is, like it'll take away half of what trust truly is.
Yeah,
So that it's both positive and negative.
assuming that's how people define it for themselves.
Got you. Okay. That makes sense. So then, yeah. Given that, then, hey, okay, fine. Let's take in consideration the full. She trying to jump on you. The full, what is it? Spectrum of trust. Then, in that regard, percentage-wise, you think you're at what 100%?
Yeah.
I feel like it's almost hard to not be if you're taking, because then you just. I guess there's the thing that Zach was talking about where like if you don't fully trust it one way or the other, then it's uncertain. And then that way you could still be not fully on the road or fully mastered.
Yeah, okay. So even from like a binary point, like even just saying like 100%, yes, I'm confident that I 100% self-confidence.
Gotcha.
You know, and again, like back to me, like I know that there's reasons to
Oh, they're
not
good.
be,
She stepped
but
up. I was watching.
from a pragmatic perspective, like there's not really another option. If you don't trust yourself, how do you get anything done?
Mm-hmm.
How do you make decisions? You kind of have to make decisions. You have to trust yourself if you want to, you know, move forward in your career or in life or in relationship or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you don't need to be at 100% self-trust to have 100% trust in, that sounds stupid. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like, I
finish
don't
the
think you have to
sentence,
trust yourself 100% to feel like you've mastered trusting yourself.
Interesting.
Like, I don't have 100% trust in my abilities. I don't think I can get through anything that happens,
Well, that
but
okay.
I have 100% trust in myself regardless.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
See, this is really interesting because now we are talking in the same way we were talking about how people view it differently, whether you're an optimist, pessimist, or oh my gosh, girl, get out of here. Sorry, y'all, my puppy is losing it. But anyway, in the same way we talked about how the bar is different there, I think it's the same because if I were to say I don't have full trust in my abilities, right, I'm never thinking of I trust myself not to be able to do this. I'm thinking, oh, I don't trust myself to do that. and it's just the way you word it in your head, right? At that point.
And for me, it's acknowledgement.
Mm.
Acknowledging what you can and can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Trusting 100% what you do trust yourself to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if I don't trust myself to do something, well, I don't see that as a lack of self-trust. I just see that as a limitation that has not come to light as a
Mhm.
reason to fix yet.
Okay.
She's going crazy.
Yeah, she's trying to climb up.
Hello.
Avalon. Yeah, you can put her back down there. She. All right, y'all. Welcome our fifth pod member today. This is
Josh.
this is Josh. Yeah, he turned into a puppy, a Bernie Doodle,
He's what is it in Harry Potter where they turn into animals?
Bernie Doodle.
a warg, or no, that's when they
It's
possess animals. Right?
Anna's and I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll have to look it up.
Is it
later.
an anamorph?
Yeah, sure. That works. That works for me.
But okay, all right. What would Chris or Zach? What is your take on your own journey to self trust? What percent are you at to mastering it?
I don't know. I guess a lot of the times I don't know if I would have hi. That's my face.
You can put her down on the ground so she'll stop.
She's trying to get her words in. Hold on. I guess I'm having a hard time seeing as like self-trust is anywhere I don't trust myself, there's a little bit of uncertainty
Mm-hmm.
and I don't even want to say my uncertainty in whether I'm gonna do something or not. Because then I think it goes back to, am I acknowledging my limitations? Or
Mm.
so I have a really hard time answering this, but because honestly, I can't say that I'm any different. I honestly want to say I'm at a 10 too.
Mm.
I trust my feelings. I trust my feelings are right. And when they're not, I'm willing to learn why they're not. Or the things that I say or do, I trust that I have the right intentions. I believe in my convictions. And if I'm missing something, I have enough trust in other people to correct them, and I trust myself to be able to listen to whatever it is that they're trying to correct me on. And so, yeah, I think I don't want to say, obviously, it's hard to say for me that I have 100% mastered my self-trust, because then I feel like, well, am I perfect? No. But at the same time, I do trust myself. Kind of what now the question becomes, what do I trust myself in? That's different. 'Cause then you're going back to I'm either walking or I'm walking. This direction doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I think that's where it gets so muddy. If like you're looking at walking as walking, I feel like you have to set a destination almost, and that's how you gauge your trust. And you don't have to, and I guess depending on how you look at the world.
But then that also goes down to like, okay, what being specific? What do I trust myself in? What do I not trust myself in?
Yeah, because if you're walking forward, you're walking left, you're walking right, you're walking backward. You take away directions, you're still walking.
You take away a location, you're still walking.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know the destination. So like, yeah, I'm trusting, but it just depends on what. And I don't know. I think not having low self trust would almost be synonymous to having low self worth or
Mhm.
even low self acknowledgement, how you feel, and even as a person who doesn't voice out, is not confident in their ability to voice their wants, desires, feelings to other people because I don't want to be a burden. I still know what I feel, and I
Mhm.
still trust that my feeling's right, even though I trust that I'm probably not going to tell them. That makes sense.
I mean, I don't think it's necessary to tell someone your needs either in order
Well,
to
I
have
mean, you
self-trust.
stand up for yourself. That's what I'm meaning.
Oh,
Or if like something is like there's something you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say someone says something to you, and you, man, that kind of pissed me off. I know how I feel.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that I'm in the right to say how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
But do I trust myself to do that? To say that? No, I trust myself not to say it more often than not.
Mm.
So it's a hard question.
Yeah,
It's a
no,
very hard question to answer
it is
because
You-
it's kind of you're asking an objective thing for something that could be vague and subjective all at the same time.
Mhm. I mean,
Yeah.
but I think that's. I'll say this: I will almost rarely ever ask a question that will be objectively easy to answer because I think it's interesting to see how people think about it, and that's ultimately why we're here in my head. Like I want to see because honestly, I would have never guessed how y'all thought about it, especially with the answers you've given. And because I think right in one way, I think in pretty optimistic pathways. Like I trust, and I'll get into my answer in a second after Chris. But like the destination I have when I'm walking is like I kind of set it by the Bible, sure. Right, like in the ways Jesus was able to handle all of his situations. That's how I want to be. I want to get there. So freaking far away from that, I'm nowhere near 10. Right, like I'm, Lord knows. But anyway, Chris, you want to
Yeah.
attempt to answer that one?
Yeah, I would have to agree. It's a hard question to answer, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I would agree with that. I trust myself. Now, have I mastered that in a sense? No, because I feel like I'm just me in my personal, like where I'm at in life.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm in a growing chapter, so I don't feel like saying that I completely trust in myself would be completely accurate because I'm dealing with things that are new to me that are pushing boundaries. So it's almost like I know there's stuff I do not know. Like, so I would probably say I'm probably like percentage wise out of 100,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like at 75, 80%. That 20% is like stuff that I don't know, maybe stuff that I don't even know is coming, things that I know my limitations are in.
Mm-hmm.
But that 80% is what's going to drive me through, like to accomplish whatever does come at me. I guess this is a good way to put it. I trust myself that 80% will get me through.
Mm-hmm.
So
that makes sense.
Those things that you don't know, said,
Mhm.
trust yourself because.
Yeah.
Would you say that you trust yourself to?
Well, they're not all necessarily skills. Yeah. Some things are like situations. I don't necessarily know what I'm gonna be doing a year from now. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily have a complete trust in that, right? Like I could be telling you, hey, I might work at a DA's office, but I'm not gonna put 100% trust in that. I might not, right?
Yeah.
Or I might be working at this corporate office. I might not. So there's certain things about that 20% that are skills and circumstances and life events that are happening with that 20, but I know the 80 will get me through. So that's how I'd characterize everything. It's probably tough, in a way to say that I mastered my whole trust when I know I haven't mastered a lot of things in my own life yet. So ask me that when I'm 40, 50, then I'll be like, okay, yeah, I know I can do dang near anything that comes this way. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and that's a lot of the way I think about it too. I know that there are a lot of even just emotional scenarios where like I am just not there yet, and I just don't have full faith or trust in myself to be able to completely maneuver. Like if certain things were to happen, like I know for a fact, just in one perspective, that like I have anger that is like untouched and untapped, but I have seen it, and like I don't know how to manage it because I've never had to. So right, that goes into the limitation thing. But I'm aware that if a scenario were to come up where that were to pop out, I do not have trust in myself. I do not have trust in myself to bring myself back down. I would have to rely on others. I would have to have faith and trust in others in order to do that. Now, is it a skill I can learn? Yes. But until I learn it, yeah, it's a skill.
You must learn.
I must learn.
Yes,
yeah,
you
right.
must learn.
That's what anger management and stuff is. I don't think I need that. I just need a therapist. But either way, that I say. But like once I learn it, I can say that I'm further along. Right. Like right now, I say I'm probably 65% maybe, and that's a lot of that has to do with like, and I think it does come into like self-worth things, and we can ask this question at some point on a later pod, but like how value and worth tie into trust, right? And it's clear that it does. Confidence, right? Confidence ties into value and worth, and so confidence ties into trust too. But aside from that, like I do not fully see the worth of myself yet. I know that for a fact. And it's taking a long time to see where I do have worth and where I do have value. Because I do like inherently and habitually like devalue myself in comparison to people around me. I do a lot. And so it's work to get past that and believe that what I have is more than enough to handle what comes my way. Right. And once I have full belief that that is the truth, then I'll have, that full self-trust. But right now, there are things I need to work on, emotionally, just learning discipline in a lot of ways. And they're just things to keep building on. And then I'll believe that, whatever the world throws at me, I can handle it by myself. Because right now I believe I still need others to assist me.
Yeah.
That's how I think about it.
I mean, you can have self-trust and still rely on others.
Yeah.
You
but
know?
see, but yes, you can. And I believe you should, right? But I'm saying mastery of self-trust, right? I'm not saying once you master self-trust, you don't trust in others.
Right.
I'm just saying that I trust in others more than myself in a lot of places. Because or more so, I'm saying I don't fully trust myself in certain scenarios. That's the real truth of it. I don't have full self-trust because I'm going to fall.
I'm going to be entirely honest. I don't think I fully understand still the concept of self-trust.
Self-trust.
That's what I'm saying, though, is like you're never going to be 100%. Like if you have 100% confidence in every single thing you do, you are a god. Like no one does not have doubts. It's a matter of like being able to know how to navigate or at least trust yourself to attempt to.
But that's the thing. And once again, that lines up with her last sentence, right? It's you have faith and trust in yourself to be able to take what the world throws at you. But even if you fail, you believe you'll still be okay. I do not have that last sentence. I think if I fell in certain scenarios, I'm really effed up, and it could permanently scar what happens in my life.
But then that goes further into like what that okay is to you.
Yeah.
Like, is that okay that you still are a good moral person, or is it okay that you are still financially stable?
And it's a bar that moves with each person, which is why the question is different for each person, right? It's not the same. And so for you guys,
I guess that makes sense.
You feel where you are is, a 10 out of 10. For us and where our bars are, we're not there. And that beautiful moment, because that's what this podcast is for, right?
It's totally interesting to hear that, because I'm having a hard time like perceiving like if something were to happen, yeah, I could say that I could roll with the punches.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for me to perceive, I guess, not being able to be that way. So it is very insightful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So-
and I mean, I think that gets into a lot of people who have self-worth issues. They're like, they just devalue themselves in a lot of ways, or think they're way worse off than other people, or think just inherently. That's a lot of probably of how they think about it. It's like something were to happen to me, I cannot make it through.
Do you think if someone with, and I know I'm just keep asking questions.
No, it's all good.
If you have what if someone has high sense of self-worth, but a low sense of self-trust. Can they coexist?
Whoa.
I think so. I mean, I think any combination is possible. You know,
What would that look
if-
like
I don't know. If it's all spectrum, then you can have any single point on the spectrum, right?
theoretically?
Yeah. So, I mean, high self confidence, low self trust is that you are arrogant, but I mean, that self trust is unfounded. If you don't have the ability or the confidence, or when it actually comes down time to it, you have those.
But then is that
Overpowering
self-worth real? If you don't actually believe?
I mean, what would make it not real? If it's real to you, what does it matter? You know,
I
because
guess
if it was
wo-
concrete and if it had to be some kind of objective thing, then we would all have the same answer, wouldn't we?
I guess worth is a subjective valuation, because worth has nothing to do with what you can actually do. It's just how you value it, right? If it's self-worth.
Yeah. How you
So,
see yourself.
Is it another one of those the rectangles a square or squares a rectangle, rectangles not a square
I've
kind of
not heard
situation?
that one.
Or we were talking about expectations with truth and how
Oh,
one
and
goes in
like
the
what
box, the
falls
other one
inside.
doesn't. Like, can you have self-trust if you don't have self-worth? Or vice versa, can you have self-worth if you don't have self-trust?
Mm.
I
Or
mean,
did
you
I
could-
just say the same thing? I don't
Maybe
know.
not 100%, but you can definitely have self-worth if you don't have self-trust. I mean, if you're saying that you're not 100% self-trust,
You have
but you
some
believe that
sense.
you have worth,
Yeah,
those
But-
are the intermingling of the spectrum.
yeah, but I think they're correlated. I think as I grow more understanding of my own self-worth, my own self-trust will grow too. And I think what you're describing exists, and this is my take on it. If someone has high self-worth but no self-trust, I think they probably have like a psychological issue because that means that they believe that they are not capable of doing whatever comes at them in life, but it does not affect them in a negative way. They still look at themselves as a fully high worth person. But what normal person does that, right?
Well, so then
Like,
that
who
goes to
can-
the question of worth, where it's like, okay, you have low self-confidence, low self-trust,
Mhm,
but you have this base understanding that all humans are worth X amount.
mhm.
You know, so if you think that, I mean, every human life is worth the same, so objectively, that person's self-worth would be the same as yours or mine, but their self-confidence might be different. And if we have a perceived high self-worth, they would also have a perceived high self-worth, depending what you consider worth.
To go to that question, I think you could see a lot of that, of having high self-worth but low self-trust in those kids that are really born into wealth, that are not led
Mm.
to truly find that where their limitations are.
Like no
I see-
practical
I see
skills.
No
what's-
practical
I
skills.
see what you're going with. Yeah. Okay.
They're like, I know I have self-worth. I can
Yeah.
show you a bank account. I can
Yeah,
show you a bank
yeah,
account that I
okay.
don't disagree with you, right?
Yeah, and it's not even theirs.
Yeah, well, it might be.
Well, I guess
It might
your
be.
parents could put it in there.
And they just don't have, they might not trust themselves to do a dang thing. And maybe that's exactly why they need the money,
Mm.
right? I don't trust myself to drive. I don't trust myself to schedule the shit correctly. I don't trust myself to do X, Y, or Z. I don't trust myself to cook. I don't like, there's definitely people out there like that.
We're not going to continue this for too much longer because it's already 6. But would you say that that's actually trust in others because they're deriving their
think-
value from the
I think
success
they
of their
have
parent?
to. I think it's a reliance on others, not a
Mm.
trust in others.
Yeah, I think at that point we start diving into reliance.
Mm.
They're relying on other people.
Rely on the parents.
Or
to
rely
get
on
you
the
out of a
parents.
Rely on a
situation.
It's not
driver.
trust. It's a reliance at that
Okay.
point. Almost an expectation.
Yeah.
I paid you this much to cook for me. You're gonna cook.
Okay, fair.
Or-
No, for real. That's how they're gonna think.
I feel
Yeah.
Or I don't have the skills for this. Someone else has to do this.
Ooh,
Yes.
so why is it not trust?
I think the money takes the trust out of it.
But what if it's not about money? What if it's just about getting them out of a situation like I'm too drunk to
That comes with
drive
the
and
experience.
I've never called a cab before.
Hmm.
Can you come pick me up?
I think there's I think they'll have an expectation that if they called a taxi company, they expect them
And
to
this
come
is
pick
a
them
person. This is
But-
a
but
person
like-
with
but-
really high self
up.
worth.
Yes.
But if you like say you don't have access to your phone or anything like that and you call your parents to come pick you up, are you not trusting that they will show up?
I think no, that I do think they will, right? But I think what we're talking about will matter, right? I think they trust their parents to take care of them, right? I think they have an expectations of their driver to drive them. I think they have an expectation of their cook to cook for them. what are they trusting? That they might trust their cook to make good food, right?
Yeah,
But they're not going to
okay.
trust their cook to pay for them, right?
Yeah, I think that goes into characteristic too, though. It's like, who is the person? Is it actually trust or is it
Well,
actual
I'm
expectations?
trying to like imagine a person that has high self-worth, low
Yeah.
self-trust. Like,
Yeah.
I think I may have worded it wrong because in the question that I gave you, but like, I think they're deriving their worth from their parents. And so if their parents suddenly lost all their money, they would no longer have that inflated sense of self-worth.
Like a trust
Yeah.
fund, baby.
Okay.
but that doesn't mean that they don't have self-worth
But
at that very
you
moment.
can call it self-worth in that moment because they're, even though it's derived from someone else's.
We all derive self-worth from something.
Yeah, I mean, as a kid,
but-
it's my dad can beat up your dad,
Yeah.
right? Like your self worth is directly tied
And
to your
your
parents.
self-worth, like
Yeah.
it's going to come from something.
Mhm.
Something physical in this world will help determine your self-worth. Like to a certain extent, right? Like for some people, it's going to be their family.
Mhm.
For some people, it's going to be money. For some people, it's going to be where they're at in their life, in their career. It's going to be something tangible in someone's life. It's going to be different for everybody, but there's going to be something tangible to help that really does affect your self-worth.
Yeah, like even like
That kid's just money.
children of divorce at a young age might end up having a lower self worth as a result, thinking that like they had something to do with it.
Yeah.
That it was a result of them being born or something like that.
Mhm.
Mm.
So
So
like
I
having
definitely do
that tied
think-
directly to your caretaker.
I think Zach hit on a good point that there's can be high self-worth, low self-trust, and I think we just don't see it on a daily basis, like us as four individuals, because we're probably not in that same type of circle, right?
Mm.
I think if you're different circles, you might see that.
But the opposite is true too. Like
Yeah.
someone with low self worth, but I guess high self trust. I mean, if you have high self trust, you probably add a little bit more value to yourself. The more you learn, the more capable you are. But I definitely think like
think you
all
see
sides
that.
are possible.
Now you can go to the opposite side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
With that, you can see that in a lot of labor-intensive workers, right?
Mhm.
Low self-value, but high self-trust.
Yeah.
They're going to be the same person to say, hey, I know I don't make a lot of money, but this busted truck, I trust myself to fix it, to get it running, to go to work or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's
So the
those
two,
might be stereotypical,
the
right?
two
But
things
still,
are
of course.
they're pretty correlated. One might not cause the other, but they are connected in some
In a certain
sense.
way,
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right, y'all. Hey, this is some heavy, wonderful stuff, man. When I look through this again, I'm gonna come up with like 50 new questions. 'Cause this has been more enlightening than the pages that I read. But all right, listen, we're gonna end this here. We didn't get through all the questions, but we'll get to it on the next podcast. Hopefully, we'll have Josh there too.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he's having fun at his anime convention, yo. Okay.
Hey, what
Is
did he
it
dress?
Comic-Con
What did he
or
dress
anime?
up as?
What's
What,
it?
what
Oh,
did he
no,
cosplay as?
I
Spider Man or the Power Ranger?
think he wanted to do a Power Ranger this time.
Okay, because I know on it's Instagram, Facebook, one of the two. He did a poll, and I think Power Ranger won, but I don't know if what he committed to.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd probably do the Power Ranger because he's got the full blue Power Ranger suit and he has the Wolf Ranger, so I'm sure he'd want to do one of them. But either way,
Speaking of scheduling, he needs to.
yeah, you feel me? I told him 9 days before he bought that ticket what day we were going to be doing this. Crazy. But all good. So thank y'all for dropping by. Thank you for listening. If you made it all the way through the end or if you're just watching a clip, who knows, whatever. Thank you for watching. We'll be back. We'll probably do another one in May. I'll break this up so we have multiple you know what, never mind. Scratch what I said. Just but either way, good to talk to y'all again. Anybody want to say bye in your own words?
Peace, y'all.
All right. Cool. JP, you want to? Okay. All right, y'all. Peace out. Have a blessed day. A blessed month whenever I see you next.
Peace out.
Cool.
Food.